This Xfinity 500 Betting Picks edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code RACESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMN.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you ask me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Only 2 races remain in the NASCAR regular season. It's the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. Cody, it is Martinsville. It is short track racing. Bogey Joe cannot wait for this race already. I'm a little anxious myself, my friend, because there's a lot on the line this weekend, and it all comes down to this, really, honestly, other than the championship next week, but it all comes down to this when it comes to who's getting into race that final race.
I'm going to try my odds at a big word, Rod. I believe it is the penultimate race of the season. So there you go. There's my big word for the year. How I don't have to have one until next year. I also cannot wait for this race. This is going to be exciting. Man, digging through the odds, trying to figure out how this race is going to go. Pick who you want to bet on and bet on them, Rod. I mean, there's some great numbers and some great angles, but at the top of the board, we've got 6 drivers vying for 2 spots, and all 6 are very much alive this weekend. It is going to be really exciting, and boy, it could come down to roughing somebody up at the end of this to get to the championship, have a chance for the title. Pretty fucking excited. Yeah, it's going to be a good week here at Martinsville.
I think your betting card just shows your overall excitement on this particular race. Spoiler alert, Cody wants you to break up your unit into thousandths and just toss it all over the board. Because
it's not that bad. It looks bigger because all of our back and forth on our chat inside it's always funny because sometimes we end up editing the tick stock at the same time. And I was typing something in and then Rod types underneath of it. Thanks for taking all my picks. And then I responded to him and said, glad I got here first. So that'll happen. It makes the doc look bigger. Okay. I guess there's a few picks in here, but
that's all right. No, listen. And honestly, it's funny because when, we sometimes like to complain about how the books don't give us enough. And then it just feels like in weeks where they give us enough, they give us too much. And I'm like, okay, now
no such thing is too much, Rod. Come on.
It's so
well,
much.
In the Cup Series too. I mean, the Cup Series, they give us a lot. Like, it's generally the Xfinity and trucks where we don't get as many options. Obviously, would make sense, right? Because Cup Series is the bigger one. But Yeah, we've been getting, especially last week. I don't think he's going to top my card from last week. I don't know if we're at 2 sheets on the picks at the end of the show graphic, if you got that done. But
I did.
Remember,
get
we had two last week, so
we're gonna have 2 this week. So
there we go. Did it again, Rod. Let's check in with the chat. Old Fashioned Football checking in, saying woo-hoo. Make sure you go check out them. Or does that say who? I think it's supposed to be woo-hoo. But it's top 2 dogs, Cody and Code and Roddy, he says.
Boy.
There you go. Justin checking in, our buddy Chiefs over in the Discord, says, happy I turned off Denny for the live show. He was making some comments over there. I could tell he was listening to Actions Detrimental. I said, make sure you turn them off. Come listen to us. You can go finish that afterwards. Boji Joe saying free money. Number of Fords in the top 10 over 10.5. Don't think that made our card. Something similar made our card. Definitely not a week to fade the Fords, though, like we have the last couple of weeks. Corey checking in. One big with Priest and Allmendinger last weekend. We're talking about one of those guys this week. So, yeah. And then Boji Joe blowing up the chat like normal, which we always appreciate. Old Fashioned Football had a That's What She Said in there. I don't know what that was for, but I'm sure it was funny. Laura saying afternoon. Hey, Laura. King, he is back. Forget betting on a win or top 10. I'm just praying for a transmission that don't shit the bed for a third straight week. Yes, I've been banned from betting on Ty the last 2 races, King. So just going to not touch him and hope he wins and just miss out on it because I want to see it. So it's been rough to start. So
I was close to taking a Ty Gibbs bet because they gave us positional bets this time around. And I was going to, but I do not want to piss off Ty Gibbs fans this week. I'm trying to go out on a high note, but if you see Ty Gibbs and his number set at 20 some odd, I'm taking the worst. Actually, I think it's like 17, but I'm still taking the less than. But
yeah, they have his over/under finishing position if you're interested on Caesar. Andrew also checking in. Martinsville. Let's talk about Martin Truex real super quick, Rob.
Oh, hang on, I gotta get this in.
Get the break in, and then we'll talk about Martin.
I got to hit these breaks. I've got to do what the bosses tell me to do, and that's first of all, thank you very much, all of you, for listening to this show. This chat has not stopped since we've gotten going, and that is precisely why we do this show. Is to just have fun with you guys and to talk NASCAR with everybody out there that's listening, whether you're in the chat, whether you're in your car, whether you're running away from us and we're in your ears because you have earbuds on and you forget that. Doesn't matter how you're listening. We're just so happy that you are listening. And we do ask you to do one thing for us as you still try to swat away at us. We're still here, guys. We're not going anywhere. Take a couple of seconds, even if you are running, to hit that 5-star, but don't trip. But just hit that 5 stars over there. We want very much for you to continue to enjoy this show as we enjoy bringing it to you. And 5 stars does a lot to not only help prevent corporate gambling from taking over, but show the bosses that you love our show and really just a reflection of how much we love you as well. So if you could do that wherever you get your podcast, just toss that little 5-star rating our way. It's a little bit that goes a long way in keeping shows like this afloat, especially when it's not pumped by big, gigantic corporate money. Just off of the love of you guys. So love you guys. Let's talk Martinsville.
Let's talk Martinsville. Andrew bringing that up. I know the guys in the Discord were kind of all over Truex. Rod, I was looking through things and I found this head-to-head. It was Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr. Truex side plus 115. I'm like, no fucking way. And then I started digging into it. Not fading Joey Logano this week. Holy shit, Joey Logano has been really good here. And even a couple years ago when he sucked at Homestead after winning at Vegas to be locked in, still ended up being good here. So that would be my advice is don't fade Logano. And also Martin Truex Jr. Rod did not make either of our cards. Spoiler alert. He's not been very good here lately. He's been really good here over his career, and he won, 3 or 4 races at one point in his span, but I think 4 of his last 5 races, he's finished 20th or worse, I believe was the stat that I saw. Not been very good. So he might just be sticking on the retirement train for Truex for now.
You can't win a race with 1 foot in the pond. Like you really honestly can't. And I know that Truex, I get it. You step in that car. It's not about anything other than driving and trying to win or trying to get a good finish in. But I mean, honestly, when you come, I don't know if we've used this analogy before, but like when you reach the end of a career, especially in the military, when you reach the end of a military career, right? Or the time at your service or whatever. When you reach the end of that, there comes a point within 6 months of you leaving that you're just like, I'm really not going to try to push hard on this 10 miler today. I don't know that I'm going to pack my rucksack to 500 pounds.
You're not running 10 milers at the end,
No.
Rod. If they say that's what the plan is today, you're saying you got a medical appointment, whether you do or you don't. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
King saying the only thing getting him through these rough races is Oregon being 8-0, ranked number 1. They're just lucky they don't have to play the Huskers this week. We almost got Ohio State last week. And that was crazy. But
let's go
Longshot Jr. running for his career. I mean, it's pretty much over at this point. Is he really running for anything? Yeah, I mean,
2 races?
I don't know. And Jessica checking in. Hey, Jessica. Well, she said hello somewhere. Whatever. Good afternoon, Jessica. It's all works. All right, Rod. Should we set this race up?
You know what, Cody? I think we should set this race up. We are at the Martinsville Speedway in Martinsville, Virginia for the Xfinity 5, not the Xfinity Series. This is the Xfinity 500. Don't get it confused. We are set for 500 laps around this 0.526 mile paved track for 263 miles, even beating, banging, and tempers and storylines. And oh man, this is going to be so much fun.
It is going to be fun, Rod. It'll be interesting to see how this race goes, because the short track package, as we know, in this car has not been overly great. We're coming off of, probably a top 10 race of all time, potentially, at least ending of the race. And I would say majority of the race is pretty good. So it is going to be interesting. We've seen a lot of big lap leaders in this race, right? Guys will lead 150, 200 laps in this race at this track. So going to be interesting to see how things are going or how things will go this weekend. But that being said, I think there's going to be plenty of storylines and it is going to be, I think it's going to come down to the very end before we actually know who the final 2 joining Logano and Reddick will be in the championship for. And
to Boji Joe's, get out of the dock and get out of my head, Boji Joe. Talking about tires. We have tires. I mean, this is a matter of the new compound, softer compound.
Like the playoff thing, right? Playoffs? Tires? Yeah. And actually, that's going to come into one of my handicaps, at least later on in this, Rod. But yeah, this is supposedly the softest tire that they've brought to Martinsville ever. Now, we've seen this song and dance before, right? They test the tires with 4 cars on the track without the series running before, because we're going to have trucks and Xfinity. It ends up being a different time of day. It ends up being all these different things. So you can maybe factor them in some and hopefully bring some excitement. Hopefully it will be heavy tire wear, because that'll make it more exciting. Outside of that, I don't know that I would factor it in too much, just because we don't exactly know what it's going to be.
Is that like Charmin soft? Is that how we're talking, like that soft, where you feel like you're not, look, to me, this is, they know, teams know, they've done enough simulations. They've done enough everything. They'll know more when they get on the track, obviously, but like, this isn't going to throw them for a loop. They're going to play the strategies they're given. Nobody's going to, especially the playoff drivers, right? They're not, especially the guys under the cut. They're not in this to take chances to try to do anything other than win the race. So tire wear, if a caution comes out, it's 4 good years and get out. Doesn't matter what kind of wear, tear. I don't think anybody's staying out on tires, no matter how soft or how hard they are.
Yeah, I mean, we said that last week too, and
that's true.
It ends up coming down to strategy in the truck race and the cup race. So I don't know that I want to go that far, just because that of all tracks should be where you can't play strategy because the tire wear is so bad. But it may end up coming into play, and we've seen track position's been more important than just about anything in Martinsville in this next gen era, I guess, with this car. So it'll be interesting. So to set up the playoff picture, Rod, Tyler Reddick punched his ticket last week. Joey Logano punched his ticket 2 weeks ago. They don't have to do anything. Show up, take the green flag, pull in, have a Coke, a smoke, whatever. They're going to Phoenix. They're racing for a championship, right? So those guys are good. I would not fade Logano this week because he's been really good here. If you find a chance to fade Reddick, I know that Corey just brought him up in this group here. He's saying Briscoe over Reddick, Keselowski, and Busch. I don't know about Actually, you might be talking.
Say what part is holding you up, because nothing.
Yeah, as I thought about that, as much as I like Briscoe this week, I actually do like that group. So yes, there's your endorsement on that. But I wouldn't mind fading Reddick. He's not been great at Martinsville anyways, and now they're going to have all their focus shifted forward. I don't think his focus matters. He's just good at Martinsville, and he'll continue to be. So from there out, Rod, Christopher Bell has a 29-point cushion. He is in no way, shape, or form locked into the next round. He is not completely safe, but of everyone else, he feels pretty good. In my opinion, Christopher Bell has got to do everything he can to maximize points. He needs to try and win both stages, and he just needs to have a good day. I think it's going to be very hard to bet on Christopher Bell this week. While he could win this race, he won this race last season. Or no, he didn't win this one last season because he won at Homestead. But he's won here before. And he's been good here, and he's short flats. Like, he's one of the top guys that comes to mind, right? But I think that they have to points race based on where they're at. Look back at the spring. He only earned 2 points here in the spring race, Rod. Things can go wrong. You're not safe by any means, but they're sitting pretty decent. Byron is 7 points to the good. That is not safe in any way, shape, or form, right? Because all 4 guys underneath of him might be the 4 best guys at Martinsville right now, besides him. And he could obviously be bounced very quickly, so he's got to go for the win. Larson is -7. Could point his way in, obviously. Denny's -18. Denny could point his way in, assuming Byron and Larson or Byron and Bell have a couple of issues or whatever the case is. But likely it's going to be a need to win for him. Blaney's 38 to the bad. Elliott's 43 to the bad. Those guys have to win to get in, unless Byron, Larson, and Hamlin get caught up on a wreck in lap 2 and they happen to have a chance to point in. But likely they're going to need to win to get in. Trial of a Life checking in on Facebook. Bell won 2 years ago, overshadowed by the Hill Mellon. That's right. I knew he won at some point to get into the Final Four, and that's what it was. So the one thing I did hear on Actions Detrimental, the largest deficit overcome in this race, Rod, has been -3 points. So going into this race, if you've been below the cut line, other than winners. Now, winners, obviously, people have won from below the line and got themselves in. But as far as points go, -3 by Martin Truex, and they didn't mention the year, so I'm not sure which year it was, but is the biggest deficit. So, like, Larson's -7. So by that logic, he may not be able to point his way in. Now we know that he could. But for these 5 drivers at the bottom, for sure, you have got to go and win this race if you want to race for a championship.
And we'll be talking about many of them, if not all of them, in the upcoming betting section, and we will do that. But first, allow me to tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all of sports: NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, and so much more. Boostober is upon us, which means you're getting a spooky amount of profit boosts and so much more. I bet you guys are going to be glad when October's over and I'm done with all of that. But you can also use boosts and specials on all of your flexed entries. We're going to be using ours with our underdog picks that we'll be giving you. In fact, I got a couple up right now on my Twitter. Make sure you go check that out. I'm giving you Saquon Barkley. They got his rushing yards at 84.5. I'm definitely taking the higher than on that. Saquon as a stud. Dude's been over 100 yards a couple of games already. So I think he's going to do it again this week. So you can go build on yours as well as our picks for the NASCAR ones as well. Sign up with our promo code right now, Race SGPN. You're going to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code Race SGPN. Well then,
shout out to my buddy Daryl too. Says go Byron. He's a big Byron fan, so he'll be pulling for him this weekend to make the Final Four. All right, Rod, should we get into the betting portion of this?
I feel like we should.
What the people came for, I believe.
What the people came for. Let me sit back and allow you the floor here.
I did want to share one more stat before we get started. This was from Ryan over at iFantasy Race. 4 straight Martinsville wins have come from outside of the top 10, with 3 of the last 4 winners starting between 18th and 20th. So keep that in mind as we go into Sunday and you're placing bets, and it's like, this guy started on the pole, I got to take him. 3 of the last 4, 18th to 20th place. And so while you can't pass on short tracks and all the bullshit that you're going to hear all the time, you actually can. So there is that. All right, Rod, we got to start off with the shitbox specials. Try and keep, we might need the, JDK checking in. The banter and commercials is all he's here for. Well, we might still banter, but I guess we'll give you some picks in the meantime. But yes, shitbox specials, Rod. I got a couple of shitbox specials this week because we got to try and make sure we keep that good race poll up and not be part of the 6% that's a fucking idiot after last week. So I'm going to start off, Rod, with Group F over on Caesars. This consists of Ryan Preece, Daniel Suarez, Todd Gilliland, and Carson Hocevar. I am big on the Ryan Preece train this week. I've got a couple of bets on him. Really, I'm big on the SHR train in general. Short tracks, short flat tracks specifically. They've got 3 specialists at it and 4 good drivers at it. Ryan Preece being one of those. 9th place finish here in the spring. He was 15th last spring here, Rod. He led 135 laps after winning the pole in that race. If you remember, got the pole, led 135 laps. Then he got busted for speeding on pit road. Unfortunately, was not able to recover after that and finished 15th. But been good here in the past. He is that short track modified driver, right? This is what he grew up doing. This is his specialty. He shows up for these types of races. He was 10th last week at Homestead. Homestead has no correlation coming forward to Martinsville other than they had a nice run last week. So you like to see that, right? Coming off of that. But you go back and you look at Bristol, 7th place there. Not comparable to Martinsville other than short track, the type of track that he shows up for. He showed up for it, right? Short flat track in New Hampshire, 11th place finish for him there. And then really lately, Ryan Preece has been pretty decent. 5 of the last 9 races, he's been inside of the top 16. That's pretty solid. You compare him, Rod, to the other guys in this group. So I just looked at the last 3 races here in general at Martinsville. Carson Hocevar, now he's only got 2 because he's new to the series, obviously. 17th and 31st in the last 2 races. That's 0 for 2 against Ryan Preece. Daniel Suarez, 22nd, 34th, and 17th. That is 0 for 3 against Ryan Preece. Todd Gilliland is the one who scares me the most out of this group, Rod. Did finish 13th here in the spring. He did finish 10th here last fall. That was actually better than Preece. That's the one out of all of the wins here over the last 3, or races over the last 3. That's the one out of this entire group where that Preece was beat. And then 25th in the race prior to that. So he was 1 for 3. Suarez 0 for 3. Hocevar 0 for 2 against Preece. After you go back past 3 races, Preece had 2 36th place finishes in a row. That was the JTG 37 days. So that's why I kind of cut it off at 3 races. I felt like that's a good sample size, and we've seen more of what he can be lately. So give me Ryan Preece in that group. He is the favorite at plus 175, but that doesn't bother me. I do like him a lot. And then the other half of the shitbox special, Rod, Corey LaJoie himself. We're going to go the under on the 26.5 minus 115. Again, if you tend to vote no in the good race poll, this is your opportunity to change your mind. Follow Corey LaJoie throughout the day and his woes and where he may or may not be. And whichever side of this you decide to bet, it'll make your race better. I can promise you that. He did finish 32nd here in the spring, but as we know, season wasn't really start good. It wasn't going great. He got shipped out of Spire early, right? So do we want to look at that? Yeah, you can if you want to. That's fine. 22nd last fall. That's better than 26th. 26th last spring. That is better than 26.5. He was 22nd last fall. So 3 of the last 4, Rod, better than this number. 32nd in the spring of 22, so that was worse than obviously, but 21st in the fall of 21. So over the last 6, he's better in 4 of the last 6. So I like that from him. Also, if you remember, and I'm going to bring this up again in a few minutes, spoiler alert, but remember when we were on Justin Haley week after week after week in the middle of the season when we were on short, flat tracks? Well, Justin Haley was in this 51 car that was performing well on short, flat tracks. Obviously, they've switched drivers at this point now, but this car has been capable of good runs from Haley earlier this season. And since Corey took over in this ride, we haven't really had any short tracks, but 15th at Kansas, good run. 18th at Daggett, it's a super speedway, but still better than 37th at the Roval, right? Road course. 14th at Las Vegas. They did have some issues last week with the car, and he ends up in 35th. But it's been a pretty solid run, and I've kind of talked about it before, but his entire mindset kind of changed. It's one of those deals where you get in that lull, you're doing the same job every day, and then boom, you get traded all of a sudden, and it's like, oh shit, like he starts paying attention, he starts picking back up on things. That's what he's been doing. So give me Corey LaJoie over on Caesars to be under 26.5 at minus 115. There is a handful of driver finishing positions like that on Caesars. Just a reminder, those generally don't last very long, so get in on that earlier in the week rather than later. I think by Thursday they're generally gone, and then they don't reappear throughout the weekend. So get in on that early. Those are your shitbox specials to open up the show.
Gotta love them. They become, we need to get this, like, I'm telling you, Charmin needs to be the sponsor of that particular box, and we'll call it the Charmin Soft Shitbox Special. That will be a good one.
That would be.
Right.
See, we've got so many opportunities, Rod. The Charmin Soft Shitbox Special, right? Which actually Eagle Raceway, the local dirt track here, they've got a septic company that sponsors one of the series, and so it's like there's so many references to shit and poop. Like it's beautiful. Like it just works out perfectly. So
yeah,
shout out to them. But yeah, and then we got the insurance plays in the winners category, like the insurance plays of the week brought to you by USAA. Hey, come on, Rod. We're both veterans. We're both eligible for USAA. I use USAA. Sponsor us. Let's go. What are we doing here?
So anybody that wants to become the official salesperson for the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, we're hiring for inside sales at this point, or corporate sponsorships, I guess is what we're hiring for. So come get it. All right, I will give you my first bet, and that is going to be a twofer that they give you on Caesars. I'm going to put both Bubba Wallace and Alex Bowman inside of the top 10. This one is pretty easy. At plus 275 over on Caesars when they give us those twofers over there. But look, we already know that Bowman is pretty much been a top 10 machine as of late. And, he just keeps cashing these top 10 bets week after week after week after week. And he did it last week at Homestead. He did it the week before in Las Vegas. He did it at Kansas. He did it at Bristol. By the way, Bristol, short track, right? He did it at Pocono. He won Chicago. He did it again in Iowa. He did it at Charlotte. He did it at Kansas. He did it at Dover. Did it at Charlotte. Did it at Talladega. Did it at Martinsville earlier in the season. Did it at Bristol earlier in the season with a 4th place finish. It's just top 10s in the right places for these types of tracks for Alex Bowman. And, Cody's made this case time and time again. Spoiler alert, he may do it again about how good Bowman is. And then on this particular track, he does have a win in the fall race, right, in 2021. Started 13th in that race and ended up finishing in first there. He had an 11th place finish in the spring of 2023, and then a 12th place finish in the spring of 2022. Remember, he didn't race that fall race because of his injury, but so 11th place there. Then earlier in the spring, 8th place finish for Alex Bowman on this track. Now, that's something we kind of didn't touch on in the beginning part of it. This is a 500 lap race, not a 400 lap race like it is in the spring. So now, honestly, in this instance where we talk about the 600 mile being, or the 500 mile even being different than the 400, it's a little different, but it's not something that's going to make or break your entire race. Those extra 100 laps, the guys don't tend to fall off as much on these ones. The endurance is still got to be there, but it's not.
It's not like the Coke 600. It's not like the Southern 500. I mean, it is an extra 100 laps, so take that into account, I guess, a little. But I don't really even bring that into my. It seems a lot different in Martinsville for whatever reason.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm saying it doesn't. When you look at these spring and falls, I know that there's 500 in the fall and 400 in the spring. It just doesn't necessarily move out the way it needs to. So, but for Bubba Wallace, his case kind of a little easier to make, honestly, than Alex Bowman on this track. Bubba Wallace in the fall of 2022, 8th place finish, 9th place in the spring of 2023, just outside. He finished 11th in the fall of 2023, and then earlier this spring, hell of a run, started in the outside pole, parked it in 4th at the end of the day. Really just a good day overall for Bubba Wallace on that short track. And of course, we're talking about the short track packages and all that other good stuff. He's already done well on that particular one. Bad day at Bristol. He finished in 29th, turned around to the 13th place finish at Richmond before finishing 4th at Martinsville. 7th place at Darlington as well. You can't really count Iowa, but it's not a traditional mile and a half. It's still a mile. Bad day at Loudon, unfortunately, which is not nearly a short track, but turn it around. 4th place at Richmond. And then 16th at Darlington. Unfortunately, that was one where he has on the pole, led 37 laps and just didn't get it done there. But 3rd place at Bristol earlier. His last few finishes, right? 3rd place at Bristol, 17th at Kansas. That was the day he should have been so good, so pissed off he wasn't there. But 9th at Dega, 9th at the Roval, 12th at Vegas, and 18th at Homestead. So here's the thing for Bubba Wallace. This is the end of it that you're like, man, but 23-11 now they have nothing, literally nothing to lose this weekend. So they're going to come out. You don't think Jordan's excited that he got himself into the championship four? That team is going to be pouring all sorts of resources into getting Bubba a good finish, because now they've got just to focus on Tyler Reddick to go out there and finish good next week. So they can just give Bubba a little extra. The upgrades are going to Bubba this week because Tyler Reddick needs them all for Phoenix.
Rod dropping his little F1 references in here. Make sure you check out the F1 Gambling Podcast later this week. So a couple of things. I've got more to say on Bowman later, so I'll kind of keep it short for now on him. But the Bubba part of this, I was shocked doing the research on how good Bubba actually is in Martinsville. I believe somebody could fact check this, but I think he got his first career Truck Series win here as well. So maybe always been kind of a special track to him. The thing I would mention, so I believe you got this bet over on Caesars. If you have access to Bet365, Bowman by himself is plus 200 and Bubba by himself is plus 150. It might just be better off taking them individually. But if you don't have the option like a Bet365, which I know not everybody does, combining them together gets you a decent enough number that I would probably be okay taking that as well. And then Boji Joe was asking, does New Hampshire correlate to Martinsville? I personally think it does because it's a short flat track now. It's a mile, and Martinsville's only a half mile, right? So it's not definitely, there's no direct correlation to Martinsville. I think that you can use Loudon, honestly, probably one of the closer ones just because it is a short flat track, even though it's a mile. The Clash, honestly, is one you could look at even more so, I think, although it's tough because it's obviously a short race and exhibition, but you could pull things from it for sure. But it really past Martinsville is sort of your best thing. And you could toss in some short flats here and there. And I'm even going to bring up Iowa and Gateway later, like definitely not comp tracks, but elements of the same part that you can definitely use, I suppose.
Indeed. All right. Well, then we will get to the rest of our card, but I have to take this opportunity first to tell you all about Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me, and Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Plus, Rhythm's NBA models are now live. Told you all about my Saquon Barkley love earlier in the episode, but how did I get there? I used Rhythm to help build that model because I wanted to make sure that my eyes weren't deceiving me. I wanted to make sure that Rhythm was also telling me that it was a proper decision to go on Saquon Barkley's over 84.5 rushing yards for this particular game. So I went into Rhythm, built the model, told me I was right, backed me up, and so I went and I hit it. So claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. We are brought to you also by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business, BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years. Easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts. U.S. players, as always, you are welcome aboard. BetUS is live with Trick or Treat on Horror Street from now until Halloween. BetUS will be offering daily promotions and a raffle to entry to win a sports or casino prize pack that they'll give away on October 31st. Enter as many times as you want. Every $200 deposit gets you one entry. We're going to give you some of our favorite BetUS bets coming up on the show because they were giving us some fantastic lines earlier in the week, and so we'll continue to give those to you. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Promo code SGPN so they know that we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. Well then, Cody, let us continue down the card. What is your next bet?
Let us do so, Rod. Next up for me, ESPN bet actually has a matchup between Ryan Preece and Austin Cindric. I am in love with Ryan Preece already this weekend, and I am the opposite of in love with Austin Cindric this weekend. -115 makes this a pretty easy choice for me. I sort of touched on the Preece stats earlier, right? But 9th place here in the spring, 15th here last spring, led 135 laps, won the pole here last spring as well. The race in the middle of that last fall, he was 20th. So, not the greatest of finishes, but an okay day. Austin Cindric's not necessarily been great here. He's got 5 career starts, 11th place in his first start, actually. So he had a good run, but then 26th, 33rd. Did have a 9th place here last fall, so keep that in mind, but 23rd again in the spring. So 3 of his 5 races here, he's been worse than 23rd place, whereas Priest, again, over the last 3, has been a lot better than that. Cindric, to me, appears to be a driver without having all of the stats pulled up, but just kind of observing over the season. Tracks that he's good at, places like Gateway, and we were on him that week, obviously not to win, but he does win. He shows it, like places he's good. He consistently shows up and he's good. But then like he gets on this crazy hot streak and we go to a track like Kansas and it was like, every race was like in the 30s. And I was like, no way. And I made this case for him. And then he finished in the 30s again. And it's like, the fuck happened? Like everything was, but the tracks he's not good at, he's just not good at. And he does have 2 top 11s here in 5 races. So not always bad here, but for a majority, he's not been super consistent here. And Priest, again, to the point of he's been pretty good at this track. He's a short flag guy. I like Priest a lot this weekend. So give me him over Austin Cindric at -115. That one's also ESPN bet is where I found that.
Yeah, so and it's funny because the whole Priest love too, I had gotten there and I was going to give all my love to Priest as well. That's what prompted the thanks for taking all my picks, Cody, because I was looking at Priest and I was like, man, this is going to be a great
I asked Priest to the dance before you did, Rod, and luckily he accepted my invitation.
What is it nowadays with the kids? They've got their signs or whatever that they use, or the videos that they use to ask you to dance. You sent your video to Priest first and he said yes.
I did.
I hate you. Fine. I will go with Chase Elliott as a top 5 car at +150. Look, we talked about the playoff drivers and the situations that they're in. If you looked at the top of the charts for most of that race and any race anymore, it's all usually got underlines underneath it because these playoff drivers are in the mix because they have to be in the mix. And for Elliott, +150 for a top 5 finish. This particular race, I'm surprised it is not. I'm surprised they didn't nuke all of the playoff drivers for top 5s and top 3s. But if you can get +150 for Chase Elliott as a top 5, I definitely would grab it because you just look at what he did in the spring. 3rd place in the spring, started 3rd, finished 3rd, actually led 64 laps in all of this. Look, go back 6 races. Actually, go back 8 races. Chase Elliott has led laps in all but 2 of those races at this particular track. He led 236 in his win in 2020. Didn't lead any of the following race, but 289 in his 16th place finish, unfortunately, in 2021. 185, he finished 10th in that race after starting on the pole. 54, finished 10th again. Didn't lead a lap in 2023 in the spring, but 83 and then 64. So Chase Elliott running around the front each and every one of these races. He's got an average finish here of 9.7, which is actually, believe it or not, the 5th best average finish on this track amongst active drivers. But our friends over at iFantasy Race have him as the 4th ranked driver in next gen speed rankings at Martinsville altogether, which means he's the 4th fastest driver. How's he done at short tracks in the past? 2nd at Bristol earlier this season, 9th at Richmond, 3rd at Iowa, 3rd at Martinsville, 5th at Richmond, 8th at Bristol. Couple of misses there, right there. 17th at Martinsville, 7th at Bristol. Couple of bad finishes in 2023, but he did get a 2nd place at Bristol in 2022, 5th place at Richmond in 2022 as well. So, I mean, Chase Elliott is gonna need a really, really, really good day. Actually, needs a win, in all honesty, to get to the next round. So, if he doesn't win, he's going to try to park it and then probably finish in the top 5. He'll come up short, but I think he's going to at least still be in the top 5 at the end of the day, +150.
Bojito has a question for you, Rod. Why is Elliott not the cover of the show? Who is the cover on the show? I did not look at the graphic, to be honest with you.
So I went with the stoic Hamlin because I did notice that, if you look at his name and Martinsville and you look at all his accomplishments, like, This is the week that if he doesn't get it done, I haven't listened to Action Central Mental this week, so I don't know what his frame of mind is. But I did listen to Kevin Harvick's 69th episode.
Nice. Of
his show. So I was happy with that. But yeah, I mean, look, It's Hamlin because it should be Hamlin on this track. It should be Hamlin. You'll talk about it later, but that's why it's Hamlin.
We will talk about Hamlin later. Also going to talk about Elliott later. So I definitely have more thoughts on that. If you look at last week, right, the top 6 were all guys in this that need to win and be right there. I would imagine there's going to look a lot like that again this week. You might have a guy or two that has some issues, but I would imagine it looks a lot more like that. Boji Joe was asking what Larson's short track history is. Here at Martinsville, last 4, second, 6, first, second. So he's been pretty strong as well. But to the point that we always bring up with Larson, I don't know what his top 5 is sitting at, but probably not a great number because it's just so hard to bet on him, Rod.
Well, I'll tell you, hold on. He's got a 13.2 average finish on short tracks. He won at Bristol, 7th at Richmond, 34th at Iowa, 2nd at Martinsville, 3rd at Richmond, 5th at Bristol, 6th at Martinsville, 2nd at Bristol, going back to last year. So damn good finishes in that.
Damn good finishes with a couple of really bad ones, which is basically Larson everywhere, as we've seen. We'll maybe talk about Larson some more in a little bit, Rod.
Maybe DFS too, but.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, top 10s. A couple of the more favorited top 10s that I like, but still great numbers. Chase Briscoe, top 10 plus 130. I love him even more than his teammate in Ryan Preece, Rod. I'm very big on Briscoe this week. I'm always big on Briscoe when it comes to short flats. Him in the 19 car next year at short flats is potentially going to be a very amazing thing. I can't wait to see that. But first 2 starts here, Rod, in his career, 27th and 22nd. Not a very good start, but 5 starts since then. 5 for 5, finishing in the top 10, 9th, 5th, 4th, and 10th place. Good short flat track driver. 2nd in New Hampshire earlier this year. 9th at Phoenix, which is another shorter, flatter track as well. Falls into the same-ish category. So a couple of other good runs this season. And he's been really good here. 5 for 5 in the last 5 inside of the top 10. That's what you're looking for. Plus 130. I like that. You talked about Alex Bowman a few minutes ago. Plus 200, Rod. What are we doing here? Come on. It's Alex Bowman. We've been talking about this for weeks. He's hit, 2-3 weeks in a row for us. It's getting ridiculous at this point. And he's actually been good here. 8th place in the spring, 32nd last fall. So not a good finish there, obviously, but 11th and 12th the previous races before that. So, okay, so he's 1 for 4 in the top 10 in the last 4 years. So I sort of get the number from that aspect of things, but he did win here in the fall of 21 as well. 4 of the last 8, he's been inside the top 10. 6 of the last 8, he's been inside the top 12. So if he's not in the top 10, he's right there just about inside of the top 10. We've talked about it, to nauseum at this point over the last few weeks. The pissed off angle, still trying to go out there and prove it. Continues to do that week after week. I'm going to just keep riding this. Actually, probably just this week. I don't think he's very good at Phoenix, but we'll talk about that next week if we need to, Rod.
Yeah, well, again, for Bowman, I talked about it earlier as well. I'm 100% in on that one because it's almost like you gotta ride it until it bucks you, and so far it hasn't bucked you. Talking about free money on Briscoe for Boji Joe. If you like him at top 10, don't you like him in a group bet against Logano, Truex, and Bell? I think you talked about Logano already. But.
Yeah, so top 10 at plus 130, you don't have to worry about who he's beating. He just has to be in the top 10, which he's done 5 for 5 times. Now, if you add these guys, now you have to beat 3 cars. And it only goes up to plus 300, and it's 3 good cars. Christopher Bell,
I'd be scared of
is
Bell.
The king of short flats currently. He's topped Truex as of late, and guess who the other former king was? Truex. So both those guys in this group, and I just got done talking about Logano. You might not be worried about Logano. I'm very worried about Logano, and you should be worried about Logano because he is really, really fucking good at Martinsville. I don't know that he's going to go out and win, although I wouldn't be shocked if he does. But he's going to run good here in his sleep with no practice, which is probably how he's going to run this weekend and just be pretty good because he's I need to go back and look, but Logano, I think it was like 10 races in a row inside the top 10. It is a long streak. 10 races in a row inside of the top 10. Then he had a 19th, then a 1st and a 6th before that. So he's in the last 16 races, 14 top 10 finishes for Joey Logano at Martinsville. He's just automatic at this track, and that's why I'm scared to go against Logano this week. I'm not betting on him either, but scared to go against him for sure.
Yeah, it's not somebody we want to touch. If he beats us, he beats us. If that's fine, I don't care. It's just Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to do well again because last week was his week where he could just sort of slough and take a week off. But when you like a track and you drive well at a track, you're going to want to do well at a track, regardless of your playoff situation. So much like William Byron, however, his playoff situation is riding in the balance. I'm sort of taking an angle from these because I'm picking a lot of playoff guys. And really why I'm doing this is because they have to be in the front of the pack. A lot of these guys have to win to get in, so they're going to put their cars in positions where they're going to try to win the race. And if they fall short, then a top 3, top 5 finish is in play here, because if they fall short, it's not going to be 31st position, unless of course they wreck out, at which point that's fine. But normally when these guys are running to the end, it's really just a matter of how much did they miss it? And a lot of these guys don't miss it by much. I mean, we saw last week where Blaney only missed it by a corner. We saw Hamlin barely miss it as well. So these guys, when they aim for the top spot, they don't miss too far down the line. And the reason I took Elliott top 5 instead of top 3 is because I think Elliott misses a little bit more than William Byron misses when William Byron misses. So I'm taking William Byron's top 3 number plus 250 over on Caesars, because to me, that's really good value on a guy that's probably going to be, like we said, in the mix all day long. William Byron won this race, right? In the spring, 88 laps. He led. He went from 18th to 1st too in this particular race. Now, of course, that was when William Byron was killing it and winning everything on 4 wheels, but he's got to win this time. And he knows that he's already won on this track. So you don't think that they're taking every single note that they had from the spring and copying it all over, right? This is like me when I do the things. I just copy and paste a lot of times. Sometimes I miss the setup. Sometimes I leave Mayer in when I shouldn't have left Mayer in on a truck race. But, that happens every once in a while. But I still think William Byron is going to be a top 3 car at the end of the day. William Byron on short tracks so far. 2nd place at Bristol earlier. 9th place at Richmond. I know it's not a top 3, but 3rd at Iowa, 3rd at Martinsville, 5th at Richmond, 8th at Bristol, 17th at Martinsville in 2023. I get it. 7th place at Bristol before that, but he does have a 2nd place finish at Bristol, 5th place at Martinsville a couple of seasons ago. So no stranger to the top 3, let alone the top 5 for William Byron. He's 7th overall in the Martinsville Next Gen Speed Rankings, according to iFantasy Race, but guys above him, right? Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson. We just talked about those guys, right? So, I mean, I know we're scared of Logano, but Logano won't push it if he doesn't have to, whereas William Byron will. So, like I said, give me William Byron, top 3 car, plus 250. He's going to aim for the top spot because he has to, but if he doesn't, then he's going to fall somewhere in that top 3.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is if you look, like when he's been good here, he's been really good here, right? He won in the spring, led 88 laps. He won in the spring of 22 and led 212 laps. But then it's 13th, 23rd, 7th, 5th, 4th. But you only have one other top 3, and it's 13 starts here. So maybe you just look more for the outright. But I don't know. I do think that it is going to be playoff guys at the top of the board at the end of the day. He is a playoff guy, so maybe he will finish inside the top 3. All right, Rod, longer shot top 10s that I wanted to look at here. Ryan Preece, 4-1. Look, I've already made the case for him. I'm just going to continue to ride that train. It's a good number of 4-1, so I'm going to take that. And then, Rod, suspend a little belief with me, if you will. Justin Haley, 14-1. Here's my notes, Rod. This is a feeling play. That means that I don't have any great stats to back this up. As far as Martinsville, he's not really been that good here. We do need to check and see if we can figure out the schedule for the 7 cars spin cycle, because as we've seen, it's going to hit that. So I'm hoping that'll be earlier in the race. He doesn't hit anything and he'll be fine. But I just remember 2 seasons, I think it was 2 seasons ago at the Clash of the Coliseum, Justin Haley fucking killing everybody in that 31 car for Kaulig. He was going to win that race before he got dumped late. And that's again, I think one of the more comp tracks to this that you really can get. And then, again, that was a short race, whatever, but he's also been in Rick Ware car, this season, and he was in Kaulig before that, but now he's in a Spire car, which clearly at this point in time, Spire the better of the 3 teams by all means, I would say. So I like that he's in a better car. We've talked a lot about Zane Smith, his teammate. We've talked a lot about Carson Hocevar, his teammate. Now, those two guys are rookies. They've been performing really well over the past handful of weeks. And Justin's obviously switched over, coming from Ford, from RWR, back to Chevy, all that. But as he gets more settled in here, he's in a better car now. He did finish 13th at Iowa. He did finish 9th at Gateway. Both shorter, flatter-ish tracks, right? Now, and that was in the Rick Ware car. Now he's over in the Spire car. I like it. It's 14-1. So if he comes out and he finishes in 30th place, boo fucking who, we missed it in whatever. I'm not really going to be upset about it at 14-1, but I think Haley has got it in him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him up there at the end of the day. Maybe some things fall his way. Maybe it's a strategy call. Maybe he just goes out and runs that good. Some way, I think that he could be up there. This is more of just my gut handicapping over anything, I guess, but got to toss that out every once in a while. So 14-1 for him. Boji Joe asking, why not Carson? Hocevar.
Hold on. I'll answer this, Bojo, because this is one, and Haley was in my radar too, which is another reason why that box is full of me. But I did. So your gut, Cody, it's fine because I had the same gut feeling, and I was going to put that in the doc. But for Carson Hocevar, top 10.
He's only plus 450 for
yeah, and not just that, but like if you look, like you can make a stronger case for Haley than Hocevar because Hocevar has been running well, but at the same time he hasn't done it. So you want somebody that's going to actually do it.
And Hocevar's been better on the bigger tracks, which goes back to his truck days. Always was better on the 1.5 miles, the bigger tracks. The shorter tracks, he doesn't quite have it as much now. Obviously, going forward in the future, I think he's going to be fine. And actually he was in that group bet that I took Preece over him earlier. And again, with such a big difference in the number, I mean, plus 450 to 14-1. I don't think these two drivers are that far off in the same equipment. And Haley's a lot more experienced of a driver at this point in time. And Travel Life too checking in. Justin Haley is such a complex driver. I would agree. That's actually a good way to put it, right? Once he figures out consistency, he's going to be a menace each week. And I agree. I think going forward, you're going to have him next year with Rodney Childers in a team that continues to up their partnership with Chevrolet and just putting more money into everything. Could be interesting for sure.
Well, look, so I want to close the loop on this Carson Hocevar thing because, again, I was looking at it. But you look back at his short track finishes this season, 37th at Bristol, 27th at Richmond, 17th at Martinsville earlier in the year, 26th at Darlington. None of these are giving me 8th at Richmond, which is great. That's fine. But then 33rd at Darlington, 18th at Bristol. Like, none of those are giving me warm and fuzzies about being a top 10 car.
I mean, I wouldn't be overly shocked if Hocevar comes out and does it, right? It has a top 10. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, my mind is just blown. Like, he does have, 2 starts here. He finished 17 in the spring, so that's not that far off. But it only plus 450 with the love for the SHR guys that I have this week, with the playoff factor, all the other things. I just am not feeling Hocevar as much, especially at that number. So, and then TK saying Hocevar tends to find trouble, which can be the case for sure.
It sure can. I mean, pianos fall from the sky all the time. We know this to be true in the Truck Series, so it carries over into this as well. All right, I'm going to look. I know I have a particular driver winning this race, and I think this is his week to win the race. So therefore, I'm going to take his manufacturer over any other manufacturer for that matter. But I'm getting a good number over a specific one. I'm taking Ford over Toyota at plus 130 over on Caesars. Again, my outright is going to be a Ford driver. I think that this Ford driver missed out last week, and everything Ford has is going into pumping that manufacturer through and getting 2 cars into the playoff championship 4. So look, it's going to be Ford. It's going to be Ford over Toyota. I understand that Hamlin's kind of in that same boat, right? He needs to win, but he's the only Toyota left essentially that's not comfortable. I mean, I know Christopher Bell is probably going to go through, but then again, we know that Christopher Bell is going to be running well here anyways. But if it's a matter of him riding the wall to win the race, or putting himself in a situation to win the race, or just hang back and be happy with the top 5 finish and a good points day, then that's what it's going to be. So again, I think that Ford has a whole lot more right now to riding on this than does Toyota. Therefore, I think all their resources are going to be behind it. So give me Ford over Toyota. And then I guess if you kind of take a look back at how the Xfinity 500 has run, last year it was Blaney that won this race. 2 Fords in the top 2. Toyota finished 3rd, and then 2 more Fords in the to round out the top 5. So there's 4 Fords in the top 5 in the fall race of 2023. Now, again, I said there's not a whole lot of difference between these two, but at the same time, if you look back, it's kind of glaring. And then the year before, Logano finished 2nd above a Toyota of Martin Truex Jr. and behind the Chevy of Kyle Larson. So there is documented history in which a Ford has finished better than a Toyota in this particular track. And then in this particular race, in the spring, it didn't happen. Bubba Wallace ended up finishing better than Ryan Blaney, where Bubba was in 4th and Blaney was in 5th. But again, I think Bubba Wallace will be a top 10 car, like I said earlier, but I'm not sure that I'm going to elevate him into the top 5 this week with all the playoff drivers. Blaney's a playoff driver. Bubba's not. I think if the roles were reversed in the spring and we needed this to advance to the playoffs, best believe that Ryan Blaney's finishing better than Bubba Wallace. Top 3 cars in that race, anyways, in the spring were all Hendrick Motorsports Chevys. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think Ford over Toyota, especially at plus money this week, is a pretty enticing play. So I'm going to take the books up on it.
Yeah, I think that you get more bullets in the Ford chamber, right? Because you have Blaney, you have Logano, you have Briscoe, even a Priest, a Berry. I mean, you could throw all those guys in there. Whereas a Toyota, you've got Hamlin, you got Bell, you got Truex. Okay, that's the end of the list. So, but I mean, Hamlin and Bell obviously are scary to that, but it's hard to argue too much with your.
You're not scared of Legacy Motorsports, Cody? Come on now.
It's Legacy Motor
Club.
Oh, why? Look at fucking Christ, get it right. Yes, thank you. Put your pinky up when you say it. Speaking of top Fords, Rod, I am going to go a different route. Look, I am scared of Ryan Blaney. I think that he's got a really good chance at this. He's minus 105 to be the top finishing Ford. Obviously, that's not where I'm going to bet on him. And we've seen it. Things can go wrong, right? Maybe they take a gamble. Maybe they have to roll the dice. Maybe they have an issue. Things go wrong. Oh, yeah, RFK's in this race. Forgot about them, Boji Joe. But, yeah, I mean, they've been forgettable lately. But they are in this race. And it's a short track. Ford is going to be better here than they've been. I mean, I've sort of shit on Ford the last couple of weeks in the bigger tracks, and that really paid off for us. We hit the less than 2.5 Fords in the top 10 the last 2 weeks, but I don't think that's going to be the case. And I was hoping to catch them sleeping, right? I was hoping they would put it at 2.5 again this week and give us the option to go over 3.5, and it's minus money. And I was like, oh, fuck, never mind. Not going to touch that. But anyways, back to the top finishing Ford. So it's Ryan Blaney, and then the next guy on the list actually is Chase Briscoe. Joe Logano's next on the list, and he's probably the guy that I'm more scared of, just as scared of, I guess, as Blaney. But Chase Briscoe, over on ESPN, plus 550, you can get him there for top finishing Ford. I've already talked about how much I love him and how good I think he's going to be this week. I think he could get that. And Josh Berry, Rod, that's right. Have I picked Josh Berry on the show before? Probably not, but I'm going to today. 14-1 over on Caesars to be the top finishing Ford. 25th in his only start. Not really impressive there, but he is a short, flat track ace, late model guy, right? He can do those kinds of things. 11th place finish last week at Homestead again. For as bad as the Fords have been running, they're coming off of a good finish there. 3rd place at New Hampshire, 7th place at Iowa, 12th at Bristol, 14th at Richmond. Short tracks is where Josh Berry shows up. So give me Chase Briscoe at plus 550 on ESPN, and then the better number is over on Caesars at 14-1. Again, shop around for good reason, because sometimes you're going to get better numbers in different places. But I like both these guys for top Ford. Again, it should be Blaney. It could be Logano. We just talked earlier about how fucking good he's been here. But I think these other guys are going to be strong as well. I think they could be in competition to win this race potentially. That would help your Ford over Toyota bet, obviously. And if something goes wrong with Blaney, something goes wrong with Logano, maybe they just straight out beat them. Either way, I like their numbers for top Fords.
Again, another spoiler alert. Josh Berry on my radar as I was looking through SHR, and then obviously on Cody's radar because it was in the dock as I opened it back up. It was literally, Cody, it was 5 minutes It was a 5-minute span in which I put my computer down and I went and I grabbed lunch and I ate my sandwich. I opened the dock back up.
See, that's your problem, Rod.
All my bets were gone.
There's no lunch breaks. That's for the week.
No, there isn't any. No, me time.
Just kidding, Rod. Do I look like I miss a lunch? I do.
I went to go take a bubble bath. I'm not answering that because listen, lunch
it's
is
okay. I'll say it.
Lunch is important. No, listen, it's I get it. I understand. All right, winning car number. Going back to the well. They're giving me plus money for 10 to 19. You only need 2 of them, in my opinion, but this also covers you if the guy unretires himself in the 19 and decides to win a race at Martinsville. I mean, hold the outright ticket if you want on him as well. But if you just don't want to waste the money and you want to get like happy if he does it, then this is the way to do it. But not only do you get that, but you get Hamlin and you get Blaney in this particular instance, which is 2 of the cars that obviously we know are in this. And look, you get Briscoe too on accident. Hey, do you think SVG is going to get his first career win on a short track? Probably not. But hell, if he does, you get him too. And you get Chris Buescher. Here's your way to get in on RFK without getting in on RFK. So honestly, the only reason I'm taking this particular number right there, because, this is the two that I think are going to be the favorites and the 2 that are jockeying. You got to figure they were spurned last week, right? They were very, very close to realizing, both of them in their own ways, close to realizing their next playoff potential. But, they got bounced and Tyler Reddick took advantage of a high side lane that got left open. Bochicho's been screaming the whole way. Why did Blaney leave the top open? I don't know. I don't think he knows at this point, but he won't leave the top open this time around. So it's either one of those 2, I think, going to victory lane. So the number band is definitely there for me. 10 to 19 at plus 155. And then look, the even side of this is at plus money. So if you take even number winning car at plus money, I mean, you're going to get a whole ton of, you get Blaney out there. You get Christopher Bell if Christopher Bell ends up winning. You get Logano if Logano wins. You get Byron if Byron wins. You get John Hunter Nemechek if he, you get Alex Bowman if he wins. But yeah, I mean, you got a lot of good folks out there. And hey, listen, here's your way to get in on Ty Gibbs if Ty Gibbs wins his first race at a short track. So yeah, no, I like it. Here's the thing. I love even, and I just love the options that it gives you. Plus it's at plus money. And I also love the 10 to 19 band at plus 155.
There you go. I don't really have any big arguments with you on those. I'm sort of going a different direction as far as odd numbered cars. And I guess one of my guys is in your band there as well. So yeah, I'm sort of crossing over and getting coverage other directions. Trial of Life says, my daughter's a huge MTJ fan. Would love to see him win in person for his probable last win. That's awesome. You're going to the race. Make sure you follow Trial of Life on Facebook. Always good info posted over there. Knows what they're talking about, and get those fantasy picks in on Friday most of the time, sometimes Saturday for his fantasy Fridays. But and TK, to your AJ Allmendinger point, unlikely with calling.
Not AJ.
Or not AJ. SVG. Sorry. SVG is in there. And yeah, the SVG fans not fans of Kaulig. He seems nearly constantly unhappy with the Kaulig car once they go laps down, even if he improves. Becomes too late to get anything. Boji Joe says you get 7 time 2. He's not in this race, is he? I don't think he's in. We did not cover the entry list, Rod. That was probably our fault, but probably doesn't really matter this week.
It's not much different than it was last week. So
yeah, I think really SVG is kind of the only. Let me pull it up here quick just to check. Yeah, Gralla, SVG, Balicki. There you go. Entry list covered. All right, Rod. You like that? On to the outrights. Okay, so here we are in the outrights, right? I would like to note the FanDuel has not posted yet. FanDuel generally has the best odds of everyone, so make sure you check them out when they do post because they've been a lot more generous as of late. So again, pulling up the playoff standings, Christopher Bell I think has the points race. All right, I talked about that. Byron, Larson, Hamlin, Blaney, Elliott. They've all won here before. They are all very capable of winning here this week. I think that you can bet on any of them, whichever one you want to bet on. Have fun, good luck, cheer for it, root for it, whatever. I don't think that any of these 5 guys are a bad bet this weekend. You're not going to be able to bet on all of them based on where the numbers are at. We've picked some, but if you want to bet on Kyle Larson, you're more than welcome to bet on Kyle Larson. I think that's a good bet if you want to bet on way up. I think that you can make a very strong case to bet on any of these 5 drivers specifically, and I think there's a good chance that one of these 6 drivers, I'll include Bell in there. He's not necessarily been the greatest at Martinsville, but he's won here before, especially in a clutch situation. I think that one of these 6 guys is the most likely to win. So, Rod, I am going over on ESPN at plus 500 with James Dennis Allen Hamlin. That's right. Denny Hamlin is going to punch his ticket to the championship 5-1 over on ESPN. Denny Hamlin has been really, really fucking good at this track, Rod. Wins have been avoiding him as of late, though. He's not won at Martinsville since March of 2015. He's led 1,106 laps at this track since his last win. 11th here in the spring, but he led 66 laps, won stage 2. He was 3rd here last fall. He led 156 laps and won stage 1. 4th in April of 23. He led 36 laps that day. October, fall of 2022 race. 5th place, he led 203 laps and won both stages. Still couldn't win the race. 1,106 laps led since he got it done here last. Let's go back and look at short tracks here recently. He led 163 laps at Bristol and he won. He led 124 laps at Richmond and he finished 2nd. He finished 2nd at Gateway. He led 68 laps at Phoenix earlier this season. He led 58 laps and he won the Clash. Denny Hamlin's car that he owns just won last week in a must-win situation to get to the championship, Rod. He's got, this is it. This is of the tracks in this group. They're all decent tracks for him. This is the one that he's got the best chance at, right? This is his chance. He's been the opposite of clutch throughout his entire career. This is his chance. Go get it done, Denny Hamlin. 5-1. I'm on Denny Hamlin. The guy that I like even more than Denny Hamlin at a bigger number, Rod, Chase Elliott. 9-1 still over on Bet365. Open at 10-1 in some places. Maybe FanDuel will give you that. Try and watch for them when they drop. Chase Elliott, be careful, Rod. If you give Chase Elliott an inch, he will take a mile very quickly. He can get hot. He led 81 laps and looked fast and good last week out of fucking nowhere. We've not seen that Chase Elliott almost all season long. And suddenly you're like, okay, hello. I know he doesn't go on to win. I know he's in a must-win situation this week. But if he wins this week, he is very dangerous to win the championship next week at Phoenix. Led 64 laps here in the spring, finished in 3rd. Led 83 last fall, 17th place finish, not a good finish. Led 185 laps in the spring of 22 here, 289 laps in the fall of 21. That was a big day for him. Led 236 laps in the must-win situation in 2020. Won here, had to win. Won, got to the championship race. Again, though, 81 laps he led last week out of nowhere. He was 3rd place at Iowa. He won the pole and led 41 laps at New Hampshire. 3rd place here in the spring. I absolutely love Chase Elliott this weekend at plus 900 on Bet365. And then, Rod, maybe all chaos breaks loose. Maybe all hell breaks loose. You think I'm going to go through this entire show talking about all these SHR drivers, not give one out to win? You're wrong. I wanted it to be Chase Briscoe. Number's pretty short. I wanted it to be Ryan Preece. Number's pretty short. Josh Berry's 40-1, though. We've seen Josh Berry get put in the situation to hold on and get a good finish. He did it in the 9 car a couple years ago at Richmond. He's done it in this car as well, specifically. 40-1 for Josh Berry. It's worth the long shot bet. And then, Rod, I wanted to toss these out as well in addition to my winners. You can get Chase Elliott at 50-1 to win the championship. You have to. How do you not bet this? He has to win this week, essentially, to get to Phoenix next week. But if he wins this week, you could enter next week. Hopefully, you listen to Rod before the season and you have a Joey Logano ticket. Hopefully, you listen to me before the season and you have a Tyler Reddick ticket. Then you could have a Chase Elliott ticket, and they're all going to be at good numbers. So now you just have to play the other driver that's left, right, at a small number, because they're all 4 going to be at small numbers next week. We've already seen, so like Logano and let me try and pull those up quickly. Logano and Reddick are, oh my goodness, where's it at? Here we go. Reddick's plus 275, Logano's 3-1. Because obviously we know they're locked in. Even Bell's only plus 325 because he's got a good shot to make it, right? So, but I think you have to play Elliott at 50-1 now. If he loses this week, you lose the ticket. But if he makes it, you're sitting on a 50-1. You can hedge multiple ways. And if he wins this race, Chase Elliott is the streakiest driver in the entire garage. Bet him this week to win the championship, in addition to winning this race, because he has to win this race. If he does, then you also have the 50-1. And Denny Hamlin's at 22-1, Rod. It's the same thing. I've already placed both of these bets because I've got the Reddick ticket already in there. This gives you some opportunities to hedge at big numbers. It's going to be a lot harder to hedge next week at small numbers. If Elliott wins this week, he's going to be 4-1 if you're lucky next week, right? And same thing with Hamlin. It's probably going to be similar. So now's your chance, specifically with these two guys who I both like to win this week at big numbers. Ryan Blaney's at 25-1 if you like him. Outside of that, like Byron's only 9-1 and Larson's 525. If you like Larson, bet it now because it ain't going to be anywhere close. Larson's going to be like even money next week to win the championship. So if you like him, you can definitely make the case now. But I think I'm already betting on Elliott. I'm already betting on Hamlin. I think you got to bet their championship odds now in addition to them winning the race, because then you're going to have these huge numbers that you didn't get Elliott at 50-1 all year long at any point in time ever, Rod. And now it's because he's on the ropes and it's almost over, right? But what if he gets it done? What if he comes back? It's all he has to do is go out and win this race, which he's done before, then turn around and won the championship. And with Hamlin, you're not going to trust betting him to win next week at much less than 22-1 anyways, because he blows it every time. So get in now while the getting's good.
Amen to all of that. Because again, I think it is going to be a Hamlin or Blaney, or it's going to be one of these playoff guys. And so you're right. Just kind of pick the one you want and go after it. Mine is Blaney. I mean, I think chat was already kind of spoiling it earlier. Mine is Blaney, getting him at 6-1 over on ESPN. I mean, how pissed are you? Ryan Blaney said it himself. He's like, I'll probably take the rest of the night to sulk about it, think about what I did wrong, and come back and be ready to go next week. And so I think he's going to be ready to go next week. He's going to have the full power of Ford behind him. I already talked about how Fords were 4 out of the top 5 in last year's race as well. So this is another must-win opportunity for Blaney. He's going to have to get it done. He did it last year, right? And that that was the propulsion he needed to crown himself as the champ. So I think that kind of plays out again this year. How's he done it short tracks already this season? 6th at Bristol, 11th at Richmond. He won at Iowa, 5th place at Martinsville. And then he actually won Martinsville in 2023 as well last year, like I said. So, for Blaney, this is nothing more than just he needs to win. He's got the second best finishing average here on this track since February 2021 at 6.0. Our friends at iFantasy Race have him as the second fastest in the next gen speed rankings here at Martinsville, behind only Kyle Larson. He was the bridesmaid last week. I think he is going to put a ring on it and get himself into the championship because there's no other opportunity. He's either watching Phoenix. Okay, he's not going to be watching Phoenix because he's going to be in the track, but he'll at least have a bag of popcorn because he won't have anything going on if he doesn't win. So he's going to be, I think he's going to be crossing the finish line in first place this time, because he's not going to let Tyler Reddick have 3 lanes of traffic on the other side of him, or he's not going to let Denny Hamlin have 3 lanes of traffic on the other side of him, or Chase Elliott. Or he's going to take up every bit of track he can to win this particular race, because he needs to win to get to the next set. So give me Ryan Blaney, at 6-1.
Yeah, there's no argument. Again, like you can bet any of these guys too, and maybe if you want to get super creative, I think I saw Boji Joe mention it before, bet one to win this race, bet the other to win the championship. So if you like Blaney to win this race, like bet him to win the race, because then if he wins the race, you cash. If Elliott or Hamlin win the race, then you have the championship ticket next week. Like, there's a lot of ways you can maybe balance it out and have good numbers this week and or next week. So, but yeah, I think that we're in for a really, really good weekend. And also, I know, Budgie Joe, you brought this up a couple times too. Will Bell be the favorite if he qualifies well? If any of these playoff guys start on the pole, they're probably going to jump to the favorite. I think of any of the 8 of them, which Yeah. I think any of the 8 of them start on the pole, and they'll likely be the favorite or very close. So, you're probably not going to get much better numbers. And if you do, keep in mind, what did I say at the beginning of the show? 3 of the last 4 have started 18th to 20th. Maybe you take the guy that gets the longer odds if he doesn't qualify well.
Yeah, especially if he doesn't qualify well. So love that angle as well. All right, get out your pen and paper. It's time to go over our bets for this Xfinity 500 betting picks edition. Cody started you off with his Chipbox special presented by soon to be Charmin Ultra Soft. Priest, a winner of Group F over on Caesars at plus 175 over Daniel Suarez, Todd Gilliland, and Carson Hocevar. And then he said take LaJoy under 26.5 at minus 115. I gave you both Bubba Wallace and Alex Bowman to finish his top 10 cars at plus 275. Cody gave you Ryan Preece over Austin Cindric at minus 110 or 115 rather. And then I gave you Chase Elliott as a top 5 car at plus 150. Cody gave you Chase Briscoe as a top 10 car at plus 130. Also Alex Bowman as a top 10 car at 2-1. I said that William Byron would be a top 3 car at plus 250. And then I also gave you Ford over Toyota at plus 130. While Cody gave you Ryan Preece and Justin Haley as top 10 cars. Preece at 4-1, Haley at 14-1. I said the winning car would be between 10 and 19 at plus 155, and also an even car at even money. Also, that even car is going to be Ryan Blaney. Cody continued down with Chase Briscoe as a top Ford at plus 550. He also gave you Josh Berry as a top Ford at 14-1. Tossed in Hamlin to win at 6-1, Elliott at 9-1, and Josh Berry at 40-1 to win the Xfinity 500 from the Martinsville Speedway in Hampton, Virginia. Oof, boy, I almost forgot where Martinsville was. There it is, folks.
There it is, Rod. The penultimate race of the NASCAR Cup Series. And we got to run it back and do it again tomorrow. Xfinity Series, same thing. Also their penultimate race. All right, I'm not saying that word. And then the Truck Series on Thursday. Also their last 2 second race of the whatever. Join us the rest of the week.
The second to last race. Yeah, there it is.
I'm at Anthony Richardson. I'm just going to take myself out now.
Yeah, just go ahead and just relieve yourself. Don't relieve yourself. That's the wrong.
Whoa, that took a weird turn.
Rod,
the show's still live. Wait till
it's a ride. Whoops. TK saying it's weird to not have the tiny font for Cody. I know. I learned
the second page
a little late in the season that it's okay to go ahead and go with the second page. I figured out how to do it because I needed to do it.
Boji Joe with the early Grant Enfinger call. Bet the 9 in the trucks and the cup. Brandon Jones has been pretty good at Martinsville too. Rod, maybe we just take a 9 trifecta all weekend. Ooh.
That's coming up then.
Okay, yeah, that'll be on the show later this week. So when the other odds for everything come out, make sure you tune in and have that parlay checked in.
Love it. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today in the chat live. And thanks for those of you who listen outside of the YouTube world and listen in the traditional podcast form. We've always had love for you. We will continue to have love for you. That is what we are here for. But yeah, definitely thanks everybody for checking this out. We're going to Xfinity tomorrow, trucks the following day, and then we'll wrap it up with DFS the rest of the week. But in the meantime, Cody, let's tell everybody where they can find you outside of this world.
Yes, Rod. Follow me over on the X at @Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff there. I was one of the top against the spread experts for Tally Site this week for the NFL. So make sure you're following all my picks. You can get all that stuff over there. All the game previews I do for sportsgamblingpodcast.com as well. NASCAR articles, F1 articles, whatever else they'll let me write about. Join us the rest of the week. F1 Gambling Podcast will be back with another episode of that this week also. And see you guys tomorrow.
Yep, they're going to Brazil. So, yes, we are excited to be there as well. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in about everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review. I hit the first touchdown prop not once, but twice last night.
Still didn't get paid for it.
Counted, and that sucks. But
we were exchanging text messages after both of those. It was just like, you're like, oh, what bad? And then I'm like, oh, you got it. And then it was like, oh, just kidding again. Yeah.
No, it was twice called back by penalty, so sucks. But I was on the right track or whatever. You can follow that there at Sportsbook Review. And then, of course, check out the back road, Seth and Elliott holding it down for all of your Martinsville needs this week as well. Might be launching something later this week too. Keep an eye out on the Twitter machine for that as well. So we'll see you tomorrow for Xfinity. In the meantime, let's go racing. Enjoy the rest of your day and let it ride.
So you'll see yourself.